Valentine's Day or on the National Spouse Day, people look for ways to treat their significant other in a special way to show how much they like them, love them, or simply care about them. However, men and women have very different ways in which they express their feelings towards one another. At times, acts or words expressing love and care to each other often ends up misinterpreted, unperceived, or even considered lacking. In fact, in a book written by an American author and relationship counselor, John Gray, he equates men and women's differences in a now very famous metaphor and title of his book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And offering what may be a solution is Gary Chapman in his book, 5 Love Languages. In it, he suggests 5 main ways love can be communicated in order for your partner to feel most loved. Hello, I'm Oriani Tangishaka, and this is Our Voices. On today's program, we'll focus on what men can do to make their women feel more loved. We'll look at some tools available to men in Africa, as well as hear from men in the diaspora on what they believe makes a woman feel loved most. We'll have women on the continent and in the diaspora add their voices to this hot topic. We begin by looking at boys and some of what they should be learning that can help them become men, the men that women aspire to marry. In the East African nation of Uganda, a male-led organization called Bochin, Boy Child Initiative, is making its mission to mentor boys into becoming men. I spoke to Sabiala Bethwell, the CEO of the initiative that encourages parents, guardians, and caretakers to intentionally raise boys to become the men of value in the future. I began asking him this question. What are some of the things that they should be taught very early in order for them to be good husbands in the future?
Right from childhood, we need to teach them good manners. Good manners like waking up and they greet those in the house. They also ought to see it from their parents doing it to each other. If you are blessed to have a mommy and daddy staying in the house, it's very good for mommy, if she's the one who has woken up first, to say hi to dad, and dad does it likewise. We also need to encourage them to be hygienically sensitive, because some boys tend to be very shabby, and you wonder when you grow up and you get married to such a boy who is not neat, who is not caring, who is not bathing, who is not washing, say, his underwears, who is not caring for his environment. He doesn't want to seem to care. We also teach them to love and to respect one another, to love and respect girls, because some boys and some men, they learn it from men. They think that girls or women are there to be manipulated, are there to be tossed to and fro, but we teach them to love them the way they would wish to be loved, to respect them the way they would wish to be respected.
Can you tell us a little bit about what a mother and a father could do specifically to nurture that character in their marriage life in the future?
Mothers should inculcate these principles in their children: being clean, being caring, being responsible. You do not just eat and leave your plate where you've eaten from. You do not just wake up in the bed and fail to make it. Those are small things, but if they are not inculcated in the boy's life when he's still young, say at 5 or 3 or 4, he may find it very hard at the next stage of his life. In most cases, at that stage, some fathers are away trying to make ends meet. But as this boy is growing with the mother, if the father is there, he needs to team up. I always tell parents that we need to work like a team. The father should respect his wife in the presence of this growing boy.
I saw on some of your publications that some of the boys that are growing up in your program, especially teenagers, they have a lot of questions. What are some of the questions and how do you respond to them?
You find a 13-year boy asking about having a girlfriend and what they mean, in most cases, what they mean with that question: when do I start sleeping around? we normally answer them, if you are still a school-going boy, engaging in the gear of having a girlfriend, it might disorganize you. Everything has its good timing. If you try to do something out of its timing, it might end up confusing you and end up making you fail to achieve your goals in life. If you are not schooling, you are in a stage where you can sustain yourself, and if possible, you can sustain the girlfriend you want to get married to.
What are mainly the challenges that you face in trying to raise them to the men that you see fit?
Boys and men at large tend to think that they know it all. And with this, we find it very hard to mobilize boys and even men to bring them together, to sharpen one another, to work on ourselves. And culturally, you find in most cultures, they don't think that boys need help. We also find it hard to fund these programs because people think, no, I can't fund programs related to men because the men know what to do. They do not need anyone to tutor them. They can find out by themselves. But as boys try to find out, to venture into finding out solutions for themselves, at times they found themselves falling in too many issues. So as girls need to be mentored, to be nurtured, the truth is boys need to be nurtured. So it's everywhere. It's everywhere in Africa. I may say that with all confidence, but I think it's everywhere, even in other parts of the world. Boys have been neglected.
Let's go to West Africa, where male-dominated society like Burkina Faso, wives are often blamed when marriages go into trouble. But a project funded by the World Bank is testing the concept of teaching men how to be better husbands by taking them to a school for husbands and future husbands. Henry Wilkins reports from Yako, Burkina Faso.
The path to a successful marriage is not always an easy one, but an initiative set up in Burkina Faso by the Sahel Women's Empowerment and Demographic Dividend, SWED, aims to make it less difficult. Yeli Owigo, who is married to Kwame Zupoka, attended so-called husband schools organised by SWED to help him become a better spouse.
Before taking part in the classes, life as a couple was not easy. I used to think that women and men don't have much in common when it comes to problems with family life. After the classes, we understood that we can complement and help each other.
Burkina Faso is a male-dominated society, but the schools use a variety of teaching techniques, including role plays, to help the men understand the needs of their wives and how to meet them. For example, helping with housework. They also teach the men about women's rights, family planning, health and hygiene, and they are encouraged to include women in making family decisions too. The coordinator of the project in this area of Burkina Faso says the classes have made a big difference to women in the community.
There are even men who have attended the childbirth of their wives, which is part of assuming responsibility for the care of the children by the men. For the men in the village who weren't able to participate in the husband schools, those who did have become role models.
Although these are the first schools of their kind in Burkina Faso, similar projects have already been implemented in countries like South Africa and Niger. The United Nations says they can help reduce incidents of domestic violence.
Acknowledgement that gender equality is not just about women and girls. Gender equality is about everybody,
including men and boys. Asked if husband schools could be beneficial in countries outside Africa, where statistically gender equality is better than Burkina Faso, Wageni replied,
so this is a good idea that can be replicated and even scaled up in other parts of the world.
Zupoka, meanwhile, says the classes have made her husband much more helpful and considerate.
The love between my husband and me is growing. Now, when my husband goes to the market,
He brings me back little gifts, something he didn't do before. So I am very, very satisfied.
The national coordinator of the Husband Schools project says it's been a resounding success and is going to be expanded to other parts of the country. The second phase of the project is due to start later this year. Henry Wilkins for VOA News, Yako, Burkina Faso.
It's time for a quick break. But first, a question for our audience. What is a character trait you appreciate in a partner that makes you feel truly loved? Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices and share your views on our social media platforms. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Our handle is at VOA Our Voices. Empowerment and humanity towards a better world.
Economic and social progress of every society.
Facts and information from key players rather than spectators in politics, business, science, and technology.
City, rural, educated, or underprivileged. We care and we listen to what matters to you.
Your voices are our voices. Welcome back. You're watching Our Voices. Life in the diaspora, especially in major cities, people tend to work multiple jobs while often struggling to find time to nurture their relationships, especially marriages. Now, I had to have a quick girl chat with my co-host about this topic. They are or have been in relationships, so they chimed into this discussion. Take a look. I'll start with Seminish. What do you think? Don't all men need classes to do better at loving their wives or women better? What do you think?
They do. Actually, the initiative by the man in Burkina Faso is a very good one. It also reminded me of a similar initiative in Rwanda, where an organization was doing a similar training for husbands, to help in the kitchen or accompany their wives to doctor's appointment when they are pregnant, etc. So this kind of initiatives, to the very least, it helps create awareness among men. By recognizing the fact that household is really time consuming, energy consuming, and a very exhausting job, husbands can make a difference. And also for getting small things that matter, just giving them a kiss, giving them a hug, or bringing them a flower or card if the wives like those kind of things. These are small token of appreciations that can make a woman feel more appreciated and loved. At the same time, I also think for a successful gender equality, these initiatives need to start earlier in a man's life. Young boys need to be educated at home, in elementary school, in high school, on how to be a good husband, because by the time they get married, they get used to certain habits that could be, very difficult to change. So these kind of initiatives are even better if they start at earlier age.
Now I'm going to go to Amina. We just looked at a very conservative area, which I'm always bringing up because I do come from a conservative country. You come from a conservative country. What do you think about the story in Burkina Faso?
So the second that I saw it, I watched it with my sister and I was like, this is exactly what Islam teaches. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why people don't practice this. As you said, I do come from a very conservative part of Nigeria. I'm Hausa, the northern part of Nigeria. Just as Seminesh said, there's this culture of men don't belong in the kitchen. However, the predominant religion in northern Nigeria is Islam, and the Prophet did help his wives with housework. He mended his own clothes. He would show them affection. Whenever his daughter would walk in, he would stand up, greet her, and allow her to sit. How many of you have your parents ever done that for you? Really. So I feel as though mothers also need to do a good job of teaching their sons how to be good husbands. Just think about your dream man and teach your child how to be that way, and that would be better for society.
I totally agree.
Yeah, now, I agree with that as well. While I'm still with you, Amina, what is one thing that you would like to see in a partner, a partner in life?
So I would definitely want someone beautiful in character and the way that he's made. I would want someone who is a hand for me, so someone who is a helper, who understands my weaknesses as a woman and is patient with that. I want someone who's generous towards his family and generous with his words, because I feel as though affirmations and speaking kind words and speaking gently goes a very long way in the way that a woman feels.
And Dimi, you saw the story as well. What did you think?
Well, first I was like, wow, men actually need lessons in that, right? Because as women, you're just born to literally walk into that role. But it turns out that this was something that was seen as necessary for the community. And I admired the man. I admired the husband because he was elderly. This is an elderly couple. It's not a young couple. And to think that he was still adaptable.
That's true.
He still wanted to change. And then he's encouraging the other men. I just think, the initiative alone is, speaks volumes, because it just shows that anything is possible at any age, and people do want to change. People do want to contribute towards a healthy relationship. And I also realized that, especially for women, our roles have changed so much. There was a time when traditionally a woman's role was very defined, but over time, the woman is now in many cases the breadwinner. And with that comes this certain sense of autonomy, this certain sense of independence that I think a lot of women are still trying to navigate between, owning who they are and at the same time being caring and accommodating partners.
And
so
respectful.
Respectful, be respectful, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are a lot of things that as women we could do, but men too, and I think we can just meet in the middle.
That's right.
I think another thing that they could include is also communication classes. So for example, the way that women process information, I know that sometimes when I talk to my partner, I just want you to listen. I really don't want a solution. Just listen and tell me sorry, and that's it. So, but for a man, most times when they tell you that they have a problem is because they want a solution. So I think it's important for both men and women to know how to communicate. And if we understand each other better and we make accommodations for each other and our innate nature, it would go a long way in building happy marriages.
Right. So now, ladies, in about, 2 days or so, in a few days, it's going to be Valentine's Day, a day of lovers, a day of giving each other gifts to significant person. Is it appropriate for us women to give men a gift or even flowers? Is it even appropriate? What do you think, Seminesh? Let's start with you.
Definitely, marriage is a two people business. It's not one person receiving and another person giving. So both husbands and wives, they need to be appreciated. So they do need to give gifts.
Demi, do you think it's appropriate for us to give flowers, gifts as women on Valentine's Day?
I think so, Ariana. I think it's a nice gesture. I think men, want to be shown affection too. And I think, even though I think there was a time when it was awkward to give men flowers, but even jewelry. But it turns out a lot of men like those. I'll go a step further and say, why not do it even, more than just Valentine's Day, like 365 days of the year. Show more love, more often.
I agree.
Every day.
Nice. Amina, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm all about receiving, because I'm constantly giving my patience, giving my understanding, enduring so much to try and make you comfortable. That day is for me and me alone. As Miyaki said, yes, it should be regular. You should show appreciation regularly. It definitely makes a woman feel appreciated. But for Valentine's Day specifically, no, it's all about receiving and showing me that I'm amazing.
I respect that. I respect that. That's awesome. Ladies, thank you so much for chiming in on this very interesting topic. It's time for a quick break. When we come back, I'll have an interesting conversation with two men, an insurance broker and an entrepreneur, about love, relationships, and anything in between. You don't want to miss that. Welcome back. You're watching Our Voices. Today we're discussing love languages, especially what can men do to be better husbands and partners in their relationships. In the diaspora, men are slightly in a different culture setting than one on the continent. Many are part of predominantly isolated communities without constant social gatherings and interaction with other male mentors and friends, as it is often the case on the continent. How do men seek counsel that they may need to maintain a healthy relationship or marriage? Do they take classes? After all, it has been said, a happy wife is a happy life. I spoke to Mehdi Habimana, a Burundian American entrepreneur, father and husband of 10 years, who loves to introduce people to his home country of Burundi through his apparel called Tuguma. Together, we were also with David Wright, an African American husband of 5 years, soon to be a father, and he's also a life insurance broker. Here's what both men had to say.
I don't know if I would call it classes, some seminars. How about that? Seminars.
Seminars.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think everyone will benefit from it. Not only just the men, I think the spouses will love that as well. But I don't know if I would refer them as classes. It's more inviting if you say seminars to me.
I agree. What about you, Davey? What do you think?
Yeah, I expressed this before. With guys, it's all about marketing and all about how you say it. Because to be honest, like my wife says things all the time that are like people would pay a lot of money for at a seminar, but she's so wise, she just shares it with me freely.
Okay.
But by the fact that we call it a seminar, men are more open to it. And if you have more credibility with like having guest speakers who are have a successful marriage for like 50 years, something like that.
Okay.
Men would be very open to attending such a thing. Absolutely.
What about amongst you? I mean, what about just giving each other tips coming maybe to a very informal place? Would that work too? Would that be considered as something like would be helpful? But I think it happens very rarely. Devi, would that help?
Personally, I haven't been very attracted to them just because it was more advice given from my peers. I would have more preferred a forum that was hosted by someone who has more marriage experience than I do, successful family and everything like that. I need more track record. I need to see that the person has had a successful marriage and family.
What about you, maybe? What about just giving each other tips like, this is what I do to make things work. This is what I do. What do you think about the informal setting?
We have some settings like that with friends where you have other husbands that are just kind of talking about their experiences, nothing formal, just kind of guys hanging out and talking about a situation. And we share some of the things that we may have done, what we may have experienced, but it's not something that's formal at all, where you have us kind of having a moderator in the middle, just kind of asking questions or anything like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it is something that does occur. So ladies, if you're listening, sometimes there are certain groups of guys that go together and just have conversations about some of their experiences in their household. Not to say that it would work for everyone, but yeah, those will be some of the things that at least I've experienced so far.
Okay. So, well, while we're still with you, what are some of the tips then that you usually hear from other men or that you can give other men to make your wife feel more loved?
Keep it interesting, keep it spicy, kind of keep doing the same thing you were doing while you were courting her or wherever you were dating. Because as we all know, once you get into marriage sometimes and you have children, you kind of start getting into a routine. And you tend to forget, as husbands, to forget some of the lovely things you used to do for your spouse while you were dating. So I would say definitely think back at some of the things that made her happy and see if you can bring those back. Don't bring all of it at the same time, sprinkle it in, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, so you don't give it all at the same time. You know what I mean?
Sounds good. Davey, what are some tips that men can use?
Absolutely. One thing that I hear from my older brother is similar to what you shared is to be intentional with a date night. Actually, we men have to put it on our calendar. Sometimes.
Yes.
So we have that specific time of the week where it's just her and me. Another thing is having time in the morning, because I believe, talking to my peers, we get up earlier most times than our female counterparts. And we can use those times to maybe craft something special, maybe a little letter, a little note in the morning, have it ready for her when she wakes up, something like that. But like you said, not all at once. We don't want to bring the standard way up here and then have to maintain that for the rest of our lives.
I think that's what men fear. If they do something nice, they feel that they have to keep doing it. Is that true? Right. So now we're in the season of Valentine's Day. What is one takeaway that you really feel that men should do to really like hit a home run, try their best to do this one thing or two things to really make it better for their relationship?
One little thing that I would advise my fellow husbands out there to make your life easier in your household is just take the time to listen, really pay attention to your spouse's point of view. And this goes both ways.
I would say one thing that could be really great, a great item to put into each man's day is to have a little time, maybe it's a 3 or 5 minute phone call to your wife or to your significant other to express gratitude of something that she did either that earlier that day or earlier that week. The more specific we are with how we express it, that displays to them that we were paying attention to their lives and what they did and what they contributed. And I feel like the expression of gratitude is a beautiful thing that our women really appreciate.
Wow, that is amazing, guys. Thank you.
I love that, David. I'm gonna take that. Using that, let me take notes real quick.
I think that's a really good one. It will make a woman melt. Any woman melt. I hope you were able to pick up some tips to help you improve your love language to that special someone in your life. Remember, in the book I mentioned at the beginning of our program called 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman, here's the 5 main ways love can be communicated in order for your partner to feel most loved. Number 1, words of affirmation. Number 2, quality time. Number 3, receiving gifts. Number 4, acts of service. Number 5, physical touch. Now find some time to ask your special person which one of these love languages makes them feel most loved. And that's our program for this week. Special thanks to my Our Voice colleagues and guests for such an interesting discussion. Now, VOA is celebrating its 80th anniversary in February. Voice of America's forerunner, the U.S. Foreign Information Service, beamed its first broadcasts to Europe on February 1st, 1942, less than 2 months after the U.S. entered World War II. Today, VOA presents news and cultural affairs coverage on multiple platforms in 47 languages. On behalf of everyone at Voice of America, I am Orion Itangishaka. Good day.